2 years in Wichita Falls the rest of that time.
Yeah. Well, what brought you here? I mean, what? You have family here?
Aggies, of course, and
Yeah.
all of my kids are Aggies, and my
Are you an Aggie?
oh yeah,
All right.
class of '50,
Yeah.
and should have been 46, but didn't quite make it.
I see.
Graduated Wichita Falls High School in '42,
I see.
and went to the Midwestern, well, what's called Midwestern University at Hardin Junior College back in those days,
Right.
and got about a year in there, then selected service that I needed to report or else,
Right.
and they put me in the Coast Guard.
Okay.
And
Now, what year was this? Would this be?
sure,
What year would this be?
this has been 43.
43. Okay.
And from there, we'll kind of give you a brief history. From there, I went to a boot camp, they call it, and Treasure Island. It's out by Oakland, San Francisco Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, I was selected to go to the Coast Guard Academy, which was really not a full degree, but they gave me a quick education in diesel engines, diesel electric running engines, marine stuff.
Yeah.
And enjoyed that. Was lucky enough to graduate. I was just an apprentice seaman, lucky enough to graduate top of the class, but they didn't make officers until you were 21 in the Coast Guard, even all during the service.
Right.
So they bumped me up to be a master sergeant in the Army. Motor machinist, make first class, and wasn't long for us on a ship. Caught that in New York then, and went down to Newport, Virginia, and got started on the invasion of Europe. We made it. Of course, I was in charge. Not really in charge of the engine room, but we had an old fella. I don't know how old he really was, but he looked like he's 70 or so. He was an old Great Lakes steamer engineer, but he was sick most of the time. So young guys like myself
Did the work.
did the work,
Yeah.
and we enjoyed it.
Right.
And
Down in the engine room. Was this an old passenger steamer, or what was
No,
it?
this was a cutter that we were on.
Coast Guard cutter?
It was a diesel electric, the first one out that they produced. We had all kinds of sonar gear and submarine, kind of like a submarine chaser in a way, but we had a lot of work stuff too. Not built for capacity. We had icebreaker bow and quite a bit of cargo space, but still not a large ship. Just 195 feet long. So, our first assignment was starting in the invasion of Europe. We see hundreds of ships going. Well, we hit a hurricane about halfway out across, and our sister ship, same type, developed a problem and couldn't go any further, so they told us to take it into tow and try to get back to the United States. And we took it to tow, then we had a problem. This is all in the storm. And I think later on the captain said he was afraid that we were going to get together out there.
Yeah.
We cut our cable lace from them.
Yeah.
And we came within a few feet of that. It being not knowing what's going on, a young kid, but I didn't realize all of that.
Right.
The good thing about the duty with all the sea duty in nearly 4 years in this thing, I never ever got seasick, so I was always alert for what's going on.
Well, good. That would have been an issue. Yeah.
And saw what was going on, but didn't realize the danger that we were in.
So you're about halfway to Europe,
Yeah.
and then your sister ship got in trouble.
Yeah. We
So
took it in tow.
You were asked to tow
And
it.
we had the same trouble.
You
The
had trouble.
propulsion bearings on our large generators big as this room.
So where were you? You were just out in the middle of the Atlantic, or just between New York and
We were about halfway across
New York and England?
England.
I see. Okay.
And of course, in those days, they didn't predict storms like they do now.
Right.
And they left us behind then. And we were out there Well, 10 days in the storm just helped us. They finally got something to us and eventually got us to Puerto Rico where they could get a dry dock to get us into. And by that time, we took off for the Pacific.
To the Pacific, so your orders were changed.
Yeah.
How did you get from where you were to Puerto Rico? Were you towed or?
We were towed in by
Uh-huh.
finally big Navy seagoing tug.
That's quite a long trip, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was the only thing to do.
Yeah. Okay.
And there wasn't a dry dock facility because they had to get us completely out of water to get in to work on these bearings.
Mm-hmm.
And they did have one in Puerto Rico, so we were there, about 6 weeks or so.
Yeah.
After that, which got to see that part of the country. Since I was always grown up in the nursery and landscape business, well, I really enjoyed it. Got to see a lot of things.
So far your overseas service has been 10 days in the sea,
Yeah.
and then into Puerto Rico waiting for your boat to get fixed.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Then from there we took off for Pacific.
What'd you go through
Went
Panama?
through Panama Canal.
Panama Canal.
Through
Yeah.
there. We
On the same
Same ship.
the cutter. Yeah. Okay.
and our closest part of duty of war on that part there was the ensign thought sonar gear picked up a submarine, and we were told to attack it, so we threw out depth charges and all that kind of stuff, and ended up, they looked back and it was a submerged barrel of some kind. But he was rated as a submarine.
Okay.
So,
But you blew the hell out of it, right?
yeah, we fixed it up. But most of them didn't know this was new. We never had a shakedown really to whether these hedgehogs going out ahead and things going off the back, whether we could survive that or not. But went on then through the canal. And from there we were assigned to go up to Alaska and build the Loran Stations, which was the early radio directional stations, getting ready so they have radio directional stations into bomb Japan. And they were still fighting on Kodiak and on out that way to get the Japanese off the islands there. And our base of operations was in Seward, Alaska, which is on I call it the Western Gulf, which now I think is a big tourist or vacation place and so on.
Yeah.
And it was we were the only military there.
Right.
The Army had come in there and built great docks because they thought the Japanese were going to try to invade the United States through there. But all the military had pulled out, and they were fighting then, getting the Japanese on out, the islands on out towards the west. And so we built, the first station was out on Middleton Island. There's a little bitty island out in the middle of the Gulf of Alaska. And at high tide, it's not about 4 or 5 feet tall. Of course, the tide's about 24 feet up there, so one part of the day it's up pretty good size.
Right.
These built that one there, and then at Dutch Harbor, and just went on behind the militaries. They got the Japanese out of the way.
Yeah.
And then they had started one up in the Bering Sea between the United States and Russia.
Right.
If you ever see travel channels or something like that, they show all these, where all the seals and waterships go back to their mating time. And
right.
It's a fabulous, I mean, it's a
Exactly.
barren island almost, but there's
Right.
Eskimos live there. Well,
Yeah.
since we had an icebreaker bow, then when we finally got on out to out that area, then they sent us north to supply because they had a crew up there that was installing through the wintertime. And I'll never forget, I was in charge of getting stuff. At that time, we used a motorized launch, not anything fancy, but to get stuff in. And these guys had been there all winter, our boys, working, the Navy Seabees. and we had some oranges in a crate on top of everything else on the launch. Those guys saw that. I remember jumping on that launch and grabbing the orange. They're wooden crates in those days. They grabbed them apart. They ate oranges, apples, and oranges and peelings and seeds and everything because they just about to die of scurvy.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have vitamin C's to take care of them in those days.
Right.
But that was quite an experience. We used our icebreaker valve to get into there.
Right.
Our same ship I saw the other day, they're still using it to keep the passageways open to the oil fields now. Coast Guard has now an atomic one that can break about a 20-foot piece of ice.
Yeah.
Ours are about 4 to 6 foot, but we can break out.
Right.
We got them supplied, and this was all of this. We built these others coming up the chain, and this was over from late 43, early 44, through 44, and first part of 45. And so by the time we got the last one built up there, well, then that's when they were ready. They got word of the atomic bomb going off.
Right.
And we were getting ready to head for Japan for the invasion there to help with that.
You were heading from Alaska?
Yeah, from up there, 'cause we were practically there anyway, just go down.
What would the Coast Guard's mission have been in an invasion?
The Coast Guard.
What did you train for?
Our part was really just helping, supplying Seabees.
Yeah.
To do those type things.
Right.
And wherever they need supplies.
Right. So you all worked closely with the Seabees.
Yeah,
I mean,
we were just
they were
really
builders, you were
auxiliary of
builders.
the Navy.
Yeah.
Our part of it was, I never get into the what you see now, the life saving and all those type of things. Ours
Right.
was just really a construction type thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so worked for that time then. We had great experiences since we worked by ourselves, and our captain was really a non-military, just a great like steamer guy. We did lots of things, got to do lots of things, lots of hunting and fishing when we had lots of time. And gosh, we'd catch halibut. I caught some. You could stand up, hold them this high in their tails, hit
Wow.
that. We weren't supplied, so that's what we had got out and killed.
Right.
Deer, moose, bear.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had all kinds of things.
Right.
Plus, when the salmon were running,
Mm.
we didn't have fishing gear, but I made it down the engine room. We had welding rods that turned into fish hooks and put weights on with pure silver. We used silver to weld our pipes, stick them together. So I used pure silver for weights. But they would throw them out in the stream, and we'd catch salmon, 36. Caught one rainbow trout about 30 inches
Goodness
long
gracious.
there. But we got lots of fish to eat.
I'll bet you did. I'll bet you did. Tell me, I want to backtrack a little bit. Tell me a little bit more about the stations that you were building in Alaska, and what you said that these were designed to where they would launch bombing attacks, or the idea was
the first radio directional mechanism they had. It's really the early microwave. They call it Loran.
Right.
And they were pretty well self-contained.
Right.
In other words, you didn't have people there after, and they resupply them. I mean, with batteries there, they didn't really have the solar connectors they had now.
Yeah.
But they had no radio directional stuff.
Right.
To bomb Japan, and that's what they used. In Austin one time, was at a function, and a fellow Navy officer, flying officer, happened to sit by me. This was probably 20 years ago, and he said, tell him what he did, and I told him what I did during the war. He said, the other day our computer system went out, and the way we got back to the United States is by one of those things. They're still working and sending a signal that they can recognize
I'll be
her,
darned.
which is unbelievable.
I'll be darned. Okay, I'm clear on it now.
But,
Yes.
The Coast Guard Academy, was up in New London, Connecticut, where they go for a full degree.
Right.
I had got ready to get out since I had whatever points it took when the war was over and they got ready to go. Well, I was able to had my time to work it out pretty quick. Well, they offered me to go back to the academy, of course, get my degree and be in that. But I was ready to go home to Mama. You didn't get leaves in those days. I never got a leave to go back home in that almost 4 years.
Yeah.
So I was ready to head home there.
Home to Austin?
To Austin.
Yeah.
No, Wichita Falls.
Wichita Falls.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So this would have been in 1945?
this last part
After the surrender?
yeah,
Okay.
as quick as it really started mustering them out. I got back in time enough to get back into school and really went to A&M. Didn't have his professors together in landscape architecture. I wanted to go there, but of course with the war, I figured I had such a short time in school that I wasn't going to try to do the education thing like some did. Probably wasn't that much of a student in those days, but I sure learned to be a student after that.
Sure.
And came back and went to the University of Oklahoma because that's where my best friend was, and went there with him and happened to see some greenhouses on the campus there, and went in, and there was an Aggie that I met that became a lifelong friend that said that the University of Oklahoma was going to start a school of landscape architecture and he was going to be in charge of it. Why don't I come up and start school there and I could help him in the greenhouses and something like that. Well, the regents spoke to them, and as soon as they did that, then that spring semester I headed for A&M. So that's why my
So this would have been
classification
the
was back.
spring semester, so this would have been like the winter between 46 and 47?
Yeah, 46. I was in A&M by the fall of
Oh, 47.
47.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
They put me in class of 1950.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you had already had some hours from Oklahoma,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So you got here in 47.
You know. And
Now, you having already served in the military, did you have the option of whether to
oh yeah, A&M,
be in the Corps? or not?
A&M course. In fact, since I came in mid-semester, the only place they had for me to stay was their civilian in the Corps area.
Mhm.
They didn't have it all filled up
Right.
with Corps, so I got in there, and then they came around talking about the Corps after that. There wasn't all these apartments, stuff like that. I didn't really look forward to cooking and things like that. I was used to service, so I went ahead and went in, got a regular Army commission, ended up commanding officer, got our company, was in the senior year. So I enjoyed that part of it too.
Yeah.
And then went out, never did see active duty as an officer, went up to a captain in the reserve, but when you're in business for yourself, you don't have that much time to
Right.
do reserve duty.
Right.
But
Because when you got out in 1950, I guess
yeah,
the Korean War was still going on, right?
it hadn't started yet.
Hadn't started yet.
Yeah.
That's right.
And,
Yeah, certainly.
I think I stayed active 2 or 3 years, whatever it was, and got out. And then 3 or 4 months later, then they called up our engineering group, and they were in the Korean War
Right.
on that part. So I missed that part. I'd already had
Yeah.
my service there.
So you went into business for yourself?
Well, my father was in business in Wichita Falls, in
Right.
nursery and landscape business.
Right.
Went back with the family business, and in the 50s, latter part, in the oil business, one of those times we moved out. I mean, they started shutting down refineries that were up there. And I had 2 other brothers. They didn't have degrees in horticulture, landscape architecture. One of them was an accountant. Later went on and got his own CPA. And one of my friends that I went to high school with happened to come back, and he said, this is about 1959 or something, he said, Austin's gonna start a park department. They didn't have one. They had a recreation department, but not a park department. The garbage department took care of what parks they had.
Mm-hmm.
And they were looking for a landscape architect and a park director. So I said, well, I might be interested in that. And he said, well, I'll tell them about you. And when we got back to Austin, they called me and he said, they want you here tomorrow to go work. Well, that was one of those things.
Yeah.
But the Coast Guard had all kinds of duties.
Yeah.
But ours was mainly the construction part of it.
Right.
These, and we had I guess a lot of downtime, but we weren't with anybody.
Yeah.
We didn't get mail for 6 months. In fact, we didn't get supplied. One time we finally got back to Seattle
Mm-hmm.
for some hard supplies, big stuff, and then the old main cook, he had never spent his budget on anything. We'd be eating fish and
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fish and catch.
things like that. So
Yeah.
he bought us watermelons and ice cream and candy.
Right.
The funny thing.
Yeah. Yeah. On this construction, what was your job? I mean, what did you
We were
specifically
supplied.
build?
We were supplied.
Supplied.
And since the motor max, as they call us down in the engine room, well, it was our job. We had a landing barge that we put on,
Mm-hmm.
and we'd take planes in that way
I see.
and supply that way.
Yeah.
We didn't do the constructions. We were mainly supplying these people that were doing that
With their construction equipment.
with that supplies that they need,
Yeah.
and also, of course, their living stuff that they need.
Right.
Because they just really, the Seabees put a crew on a almost desolate place
Uh-huh.
to build these,
Exactly.
and so we had about 3 to 4 of them going at one time.
Right.
Maybe back off of Sitka or out in the middle of the island on
Right.
Kodiak and
Yeah.
out further Dutch Harbor.
Right. So it's fair to say that your job was to supply the Seabees who were
Yeah.
actually building the
Yeah.
the stations.
Yeah,
Yeah. I see.
and then we'd come back at Seward, Alaska as our main port. We were the only military there.
What was your port? I'm sorry. Say it again. Where was that?
Sitka, Alaska.
Okay.
Up in the north
Yeah.
corner. We've had to make quite a few back to Ketchikan to get supplies
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And saw lots of interesting things, like where all the tourists go now to see the where the ice comes down to the sea and stuff
Yeah. The
like that.
glacier park and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
we had to run in there one time to get out of the storm. Nobody else was there.
Mhm.
And so I asked the captain, I said, can we use a 5-inch gun, try to make some landslides off that thing that we saw happen naturally? So he let us take the gun and make the thing just slides
Uh-huh.
into the ocean there that way.
Yeah.
Another time we got run out of a storm back into the bay where now the pipeline comes down.
Right.
And there was a few Eskimos or part Eskimos there, a little village, but there's a big fish cannery there that opened up in the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
But there the tide goes down about 20 feet as we were going in the channel to get it back up in there. Well, our cook grew up in the coast, South Carolina, and knew seafood or the sea work, and he saw all these piles of grass on mounds. He said there's big Alaska crabs underneath those. So the captain let us take the lifeboat, it was about 24 foot, used it some for work, and we went ashore and built a bonfire. Went out and just got this great old big Alaska crabs, and he boiled them like they did and seasoned them in pure butter. You know, we had hundreds of pounds of butter.
Uh-huh.
That's the first time I've ever eaten
Yeah.
Really, that kind of stuff. Very good.
Oh man, I'll
But
bet.
I can see that now, just all this seagrass just lays down when the tide goes out, so if these mounds are everywhere,
Right,
we can see them.
right, right.
We had, it sounded like a vacation time. We made it that way.
So you spent the better part of what, 4 years on the boat, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
all the time.
Right.
Uh,
And was it always this sailboat, this cutter?
Same one.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
I was on there longer than anybody.
Right.
Didn't know any better. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But we had something to do,
Yeah.
and others come and go.
Right. Right.
The captain was on there just about the same amount of time.
I got you.
And
I
he
got
says, Smitty, you got a lot of salt in your boots, in your boots. Says, I appreciate it.
So when you were discharged, what was your rank?
I was motor machinist mate, first class.
Mortar machines made
Didn't,
first class. Yeah.
didn't ever get to be really 21 because I was just barely 18.
Yeah.
Got out of high school when I was
Right.
17.
Right.
And so I didn't worry about that anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. So then fast forward, you that job in Austin, you took that job and as the parks
With
man?
my dad, there in Austin when the oil been shut down, well, I went, my neighbor was the park and recreation director.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him looked like we're going to do something, so I really took a job first in the park work as
Yeah.
superintendent of parks for the city of Austin for a few months. But in those days, they didn't pay very much. When I went to Austin, I think it was about $400 a month with
Mhm.
a family and 3 kids. But
Yeah.
that was something to do.
Right.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And when that Austin thing came up there, and then eventually went with the highway department as landscape architect when Lady Bird was in power and we was doing all the interstate highways, the roadside parks, all over different ones. You'll
Uh-huh.
see them from oil wells to teepees to
Sure.
all kinds of things that we played around with.
Right.
Was in charge of that, but I couldn't stand working 40 hours a week. Got into business for myself then
Yeah. We're in Austin.
in Austin.
In Austin. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and enjoyed that.
As a landscape architect or a
Yeah,
nursery?
and
or what?
nursery, since I grew up in the nursery business. In
Yeah.
those days, an architect really couldn't make a living
Right.
just being an architect.
Right. So you owned your own nursery?
Yes, one of my sons still operates the business.
Oh, really? What's the name of it?
Hill Country Landscape.
Where is it located in Austin?
It's off of 183,
Uh-huh.
really, just before 620,
Okay.
not that way.
Yeah. So this is a business that you started, and then
Yeah.
your son.
And I kind of moved as the town grew. Of course, it was
Right.
very small when
Right.
I got there in the 60s.
Right.
And
So when did you get married?
got married in 51.
So that's before you got on the boat?
No, after we got out of service.
Okay, after you got out. That's right. Yeah,
Got
of
out of
course.
A&M.
Yeah, yeah. That's right. That's right. Because you came to. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was mixed up there because you got to A&M in
In
46, 47. Yeah. Okay. So where did you meet your wife at A&M, or did you
Well,
already known her? Or?
It's another one of those things that just happened. My mother usually always wrote me every week.
Uh-huh.
And this week I was in senior year. And her letter just had the front page of the newspaper. And it said, she'd torn out, said, a terrible thing has happened. Well, a little girl in our church, her mother and dad and she were in a car wreck, and her mother and dad were killed. And the little girl was asleep, happened to be asleep in the back seat. They were heading for Colorado vacation. And they were members of our First Baptist Church in Wichita Falls. And my mother was just really upset about it. She just said, that's all she said, a terrible thing was happening. Well, I got first Sunday, I was out of A&M, went to church, and there was my friend that went to OU. And I sat behind him, and he turned around and he said to me, "Seal," says, he introduced me to his wife-to-be. He says, "I've got your wife picked out for you up there in the choir." Okay, so I met this girl, and I was almost walking down the aisle, and I come to realize that this little girl that my mother had so much pity for was the one that in the car wreck.
Oh my goodness gracious.
And so my mother didn't have any girls, she had 3 boys. So it was like a mother, you know, little baby cow getting together, calf getting together. I mean, they just hit it off well.
Yeah.
She had her mother again, and my wife had her, my
And
mother
her
had
mom
her
again.
daughter, you know,
Yeah.
that way. And so,
Yeah, so her mother-in-law sort of became her
yeah.
mother.
Really.
What a neat story. So, but you didn't realize at the time that that was the little girl who
No,
lost her parents.
didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I found out later on, I was kind of ganged up on because this wife-to-be of my friend, that was her best friend
I see.
in high school.
I see.
But it worked out real good for both of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we just Monday had our 58th wedding anniversary.
How about that? And how many kids do y'all have?
Have 3 boys.
3 boys?
Yeah.
And so you got the one in Austin. Where are the others?
I've got 1 daughter.
Uh-huh.
We're all Aggies.
Right.
My daughter married a little Aggie boy, and he's second command of Chevron now.
I see.
Going up through Getty Oil on the top of Texaco, and they sold out. Well, he
Yeah.
retired.
Yeah.
But when they had the going away, he got $5 million golden parachute
Wow.
that night when they had their going away party in New York. The new CEO asked him to come to his room. He said, I need you to come to work for me. Second command of Chevron. So the kids have done pretty well.
Yeah.
They're getting ready to build a little hacienda out here
At a
at
tradition.
Country Club. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Good. Good.
Merrimont.
Yeah. Oh, in Merrimont.
Yeah.
So so you're okay now. 3 sons.
Yeah.
One in
My
Austin.
2 sons and a daughter. Get them
2 sons and a daughter. Okay.
My
One's
one
in-
son,
one's in
I have
Austin.
one son that lives here.
Okay.
That is over at Crestview.
Okay.
25 years ago, he was in a terrible car accident.
Oh, my.
So bad they had to cut off the top of his head.
Oh.
From a head injury, the surgeon said he didn't know. He thought he had taken out all of his mathematical ability, and he'd probably have to learn everything over again. Well, he was just a fat-headed Aggie, and he ran our retail part of our business for 20 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, just with as much damage, he had some speech problems and of course some physical things too.
Right.
That he retired when we retired. He come over here.
I see.
I had been on the National Landscape Board, and we'd had meetings in Florida one time, and this professor his main thing was family businesses, and he lectured us for a whole week, and ended up really what he was saying, that dad needs to get out of the way,
Mm-hmm.
so that the son can learn to talk to the bankers, and or otherwise dad does it all, and when you have a death, your dad goes, and the business goes down the drain.
Right. Right.
And so I really retired in '95,
I see.
and just did large homes. By that time, everything was so affluent. Most of them, they had $1 million landscape budgets out
Right.
of Lake Travis
Yeah.
and on up Marble Falls and
Right.
things like that. I did out of town stuff and let him really take over
Right.
in town stuff. So to get
What's your wife's name?
My wife, Martha
Martha.
Smith. Yeah.
Now, was she at home, or did she work? Did she have a career, or did she work in the business? Or?
No, I wasn't very successful getting her to work.
Okay.
She helped me,
Yeah, she helped
and
you.
she did good.
And raise kids.
And raise kids.
Yeah,
She did
that's
real
good.
good while the kids were young, but when they
Yeah.
started getting out of school, she decided there was too many chiefs around. And she got to where she did work all day, and she always did the bank and took stuff to the bank,
Right.
like family business,
Yeah, sure.
And then she'd just show up at 11 o'clock to get the deposits,
Yeah.
Her work days were, so finally we just agreed that she wouldn't come anymore.
You gently fired her.
Did fire her. But that's the way a family business goes sometimes.
Yeah, I see. Well, that's a great story. Really, I'm fascinated by all the. What? Tell me what. Show me what
well,
you got.
I
You
didn't
got
know
some
what-
pictures.
it's-
Yeah, I
it's,
want to see
I
what
just-
you got.
That's the 18-year-old kid.
Yeah, I love this picture. I'm going to borrow some of these and scan them and then give them back to you.
When
on
we
Thursday.
got to Alaska, really at Sitka,
Uh-huh.
the Army had moved out, but they built this fine port there.
Uh-huh.
Man, the big ships come in there.
Right.
And right off next to that was a large home, I'd say around 3,500 square feet, that they had designated USO,
Yeah.
but they never had used it. But I found when we got there, well, the ladies opened it up,
Yeah.
and I found that.
Yeah.
We were in there. There was photography equipment. You could get pictures developed and so on. All my pictures, I took it out since I've done that
Right.
before I got in the service as a hobby.
Yeah.
We could blow them up and so on like this. Of course, they're all too bad to even look at now, but
No, those will scan really well, I can tell.
this kind of stuff here is
that your vessel
that's
there?
one of the ships there. I haven't looked at these in so long time, but here's that. We had big hedgehogs through that, and then we had a big boom area.
Uh-huh.
For
So this is your vessel here, right?
We
This
could
is
lift.
Yeah.
We could lift 100,000 pounds.
Yeah.
You could also tend these big deep sea buoys,
Uh-huh.
and they were getting ready. When I left my ship, they were sending it to Singapore because the buoys were sinking. They said in Singapore,
Yeah.
and our government agreed to go for that. But this is stuff.
Is that you?
Some of our supplying area, but it's not even good enough to look at now on that part. But
Let me ask you, some of these people, are you in these pictures? Or are you in this one? Or
maybe one or two. I didn't take many pictures of myself.
no? I know that's usually the case, but I'd like to see because I like pictures that you're in. Show me some samples of pictures that you're in. Is that you?
This one. Okay. When we got around to California,
Uh-huh.
at San Luis Obispo,
Yeah.
California,
Right.
the buoys were sinking there. So before we headed for Alaska, those things had grown to the floor in our ship. We almost tilted over to get them to break loose, and when they come up, it rocked like that. Of course, I was running the winch. That was a lot of fun. But this was a shore leave in California. We did get to Hawaii.
So you are in this one? It says Heinz
sure.
Drum
I think I'm-
and guess who?
Yeah.
Would that be you? Are you guess
Yeah,
who?
that's me right
Yeah.
there.
Okay. That's at Waikiki.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got some reading there, but this is all. Of course, we went to Waikiki Beach and the big old hotel that you used to see.
Uh-huh.
Was still just.
Now that's not you there, is it? Doesn't look like
No,
you.
that's not
Yeah.
me there.
Okay.
That's not there. Most of these pictures are not me.
Yeah, or some of your.
Some friends, but
Uh-huh.
giving ourselves haircuts because we didn't even get paid. I mean, it didn't catch up with money. We didn't need money, wasn't any place to spend it anyway.
Yeah.
There, we didn't have money when we went through the Panama Canal.
Are you in this
This
picture?
is one of them.
Is this
I
you?
guess that's me there.
How about this right here? Are you in one of those?
No, up there. That's the type of kind of lifeboat we used.
But you're not in that picture.
Not in that
okay.
one, no.
Okay.
I think I was busy taking pictures. of
Yeah,
everybody
you're
else.
taking the
When we got to, this is the type of ship it is. Here's
Uh-huh.
had this big boom. We put a lot of stuff down below and lift up. When we got back to Seattle one time, the captain liked to hunt too.
Yeah.
We didn't have a car. The one and only bar in Seward, Alaska, had a Jeep, and he let us borrow it. And he had
Right.
a place about 60 miles up the river.
Yeah.
There's the boondocks. I mean, nothing. He let us go up there to stay when we had time. So we wanted a Jeep. So when we were at the big Navy base, bringing that stuff.
So if I were getting on the internet and looking for a picture of your vessel,
Yeah.
what would I call it? exactly? How would it be identified?
It was called a Coast Guard Cutter Bramble.
Coast Guard Cutter Bramble?
It's an icebreaker.
Uh-huh. Coast Guard Cutter Bramble.
Bramble.
Okay.
This is another view of it there where it looks larger.
Yeah.
In here.
Okay, those are good.
I hadn't looked at these so long, but here we are.
Oh no, those are good.
Probably when we started north from on Aleutian Islands up there, going up Pribilof Islands, we hit waves 90 feet high.
Right.
You see, in National Geographic, they show these shrimpers out there, what danger it is. We'd go over one wave and under one wave. It was only 195 feet long.
Yeah.
But we had to get up there and supply these guys. Of course, eventually we hit ice.
Right.
But these waves eventually got so big that we didn't take pictures. I didn't.
That's a good picture right there.
Yeah. But we were beginning to get into the rough sea there, where we started north, up between Russia and the United States. Supply stuff, and we'd unload stuff, put them aside.
Are you in this picture?
You know, I'm not in very many of them because
no, I know, but I just want to know. But I just want to know what you. If you are in one, I want you. Yeah.
Caught. I mean, fish just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I like the fish. We had fish anytime, anywhere. A lot of places went by. These volcanoes were going off. This one we were going by, heading on up to Dutch Harbor.
Right.
And the engines got hot. Just had to shut everything down. I thought it was full of lava. So they're just covering the ship. That big old intake filter's about 3 foot in diameter.
Yeah.
Got on the bottom of the bilge of the ship and opened that thing up. It was full of sardines. We had run through a school of sardines.
Oh my goodness.
Sucked them in there.
Oh Lord.
And completely stopped the ship.
Yeah.
There. But we saw lots of volcanoes.
Yeah, sure.
Those days going off.
Yeah.
Up that range there. This is one of the chief old friends from New York. That's but this is then we got.
I just want to make sure you're not skipping any pictures of you. I want to know.
I'm kind of looking.
Okay. That's not you.
I didn't think to get myself in the picture.
No, I know there's not many, but I just don't want to miss them if there are.
I think this is probably at Sitka.
Okay.
That's kind of an island in North Alaska, and there's a back away from town. We walked out there. I'm sure the tourists. There was a big totem pole park. I mean, where they gathered up all these totem poles way back
Sitka,
there.
right?
Yeah. And of course, it's big fishing. It was then too. There's these great big totem poles. There's not a very good picture.
Yeah.
But
yeah, my wife and I went on an Alaskan cruise 2 summers ago. So we
going to see those. Or
well, we weren't. We were
at Ketchikan.
We were at Ketchikan. We saw the totem poles there. We
Funny,
did.
when we got to Ketchikan up there,
we went to Juneau. We stopped at Juneau, Ketchikan, and one other place on the coast there.
When we hit Ketchikan, well, the admiral came out and he said they just had gotten hold of him. There's no emergency drawings of the ship. What happened to break this pipe or something happened there, and he told what you do. He talked to me and I said, well, I had some engineering drawing school, high school and college. So I said, can you do this? Figure out how we get around these pipes or break here where we catch them. So I drew for the whole Coast Guard. For the next 3 months, they took me off duty, and I got in the officers' quarters, and they got me a drawing board and pencils and everything. My glasses. They even put me in Ketchikan to get my glasses fitted where I could have some glasses I could see. And in those days, you just had a little piece of glass you put in front of each one, not like you do now.
Right.
And so about 3 months, I drew the safety and really recovery drawings that they used in the Coast Guard for this type of vessel.
Right. Now that says myself there, so would that be you?
That would be
right there.
Here.
Okay, that's a good one.
Of course, we had 12 hours off about 12 hours on and about 6 hours off. So
Uh-huh.
one of the 6 hours it had to be in daylight, so we'd get up and relax. But it was still cold. I never did look at a thermometer, but I know seawater was freezing on us
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of times, you know. So I never looked at what the temperature was. This was our landing craft that we had. Almost lost my life on this one time. We were starting that island out in the middle of the Gulf of Alaska at Middleton Island.
Uh-huh.
And it was nice and calm. We had deck completely full with landing boards. So the captain asked if there was any volunteers to just, we'd tow it, but had to have the engine running where to take care of itself. So myself and another deck guy volunteered to do that. Well, we had a heck of a storm going out there. And they had thought about even just cutting us loose.
Mhm.
Afraid they was going to lose us. And then the thing started filling up the water and started to sink.
Uh-huh.
There had been some straw in there and some debris, and the pumps that pumped out these big bilge couldn't work. We were sinking. So I don't know how cold it was. Seawater was freezing. So I just took my clothes and all down in that water and went underwater. Of course, I'd been a lifeguard for several years too before that. And unplugged that thing. And had to get back in the engine compartment, which is enclosed, and just lay on top of one of the diesel engines to keep from freezing. And that went on all night long.
Goodness
To
gracious.
save ourselves, and we made it through the thing. Otherwise, they were afraid it was going to have to just cut us loose.
My goodness.
So that the Lord kind of took care of us
Yes.
like that. But we were in lots of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I never got seasick. This was the old cook. One day we'd been in that kind of water for so long, everybody was sick. I told him I had to have something to eat.
Uh-huh.
So he came up to the galley and opened up, and he got a package of saltine crackers, and a can of tomatoes. I threw him that and he says, "That's all you're getting, because I'm going back to bed." And so this is some of our excursions in the woods.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not me. At Sitka, since I'm always going to church, well, I got practically everybody on Sunday when we were in there to go to church, and there was one little church of Christ out down the pasture. The town didn't have about less than 300 people.
Right.
But I'd get the whole gang, about 45 of us, and we'd go to church. And of course, we'd fill up that little preacher's church. We finally knew when we were leaving. He got me off the side of this preacher, and he says, "C.O., says, if you'll come back up here after the war, says, you can homestead 50,000 acres right up here. It's going to be worth something one of those days." And he's right. It was worth something. He had a marrying age daughter, you know. I think he had some things there, but he said, "I'll just guarantee you'll be rich one of these days." This is when we were at
Those are what, sea lions?
Pribilof Islands there.
Yeah.
That was the most interesting thing. The Eskimos eat these things, but
Yeah.
you can just walk in between them. You don't scare them. When they see one they want to kill, they get it by the ear, take it over kind of a dune there, and then club it.
Yeah.
They never let an animal see it kill.
Yeah.
Even those big walruses and stuff like that.
Right.
They were there by the millions. And
Oh,
they
yeah.
go back there every year.
Well, I remember seeing them when we were on our cruise over there on the shore. I remember they
This
just
is where they all eventually
Yeah.
go to at one time.
Right.
And there are
Right.
millions of them.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
These guys catch those whales,
Yeah.
get the blubber off of them, and that's what they ate. I mean, there was nothing else to eat.
I guess you saw a lot of whales, didn't you?
All the time.
just all
Yeah,
the
these
time.
pictures you see, we
Yeah.
saw that
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah. We went on that's one of our excursions we did. We went on a whale watch. It was fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were always seeing them. And of course, coming up the inland, we went. I don't imagine you got to go to the very inland passage. We were
No.
small enough. We got to go up it,
Right.
which was good, but the ensign that was on duty went the wrong way on a buoy And we went aground, or we hit a big boulder and knocked a hole in the ship about big enough to put a car through, and had to go down. From there, we were able to take care of ourselves. Had just come off duty from being on duty all night.
Yeah.
Sleep, and felt the boat go like that, and then the ship came on. I had my skivvies on. I went up on the deck. My feet froze to the deck when I came out the door. And the captain was up above me. He says, "Smitty, don't move. Stay there." And he threw me down his parker. He says, "Put that on. When you feel your feet let go, jump over on the piling, and then we'll get you." So amazingly, I didn't have any damage from the coldness, but my feet just froze to the deck because it was so cold there.
My goodness.
And he knew to tell me not to. If I tried to move, I'd have tore your feet legs and everything off there.
Yeah. Wow.
But, this is what we look like from out there. This is someone still at Turtle Bluff Islands. But I did all the picture developing for us, when we got back. We had for everybody, because there's no place to get pictures developed. But I got in trouble. One, pictures I took, pictures of our hole in our ship. I went home with Mama. And accepted that. So
that was,
they were going to court-martial me,
Oh my goodness.
So when you're supposed to tell where I was. And that old captain, since I'd been on there longer than anybody else, I told him, well, I was kind of, I don't know what I said. I said, I didn't know anybody to trust or ask or anything. I just kind of did it. And the captain turned around to this officer that was really trying to, says, "This boy's all right. Just tell him to forget it." He was not GI.
I'm glad the captain liked you.
Yeah, we got along well.
Good.
But this is up that little church up there. But I know you got other things to do. But that's
No.
I don't know how you fit all this into what you want to do.
No. This is. There's a lot of good pictures here. I want to borrow these books if I can and scan some of the pictures.
See some you like.
And go ahead.
I had the equipment I have now. I scan them into my computer now.
Yeah.
But this was that lodge, you might call it lodge. We went on what this big river is. It comes down. It's probably 300 feet wide. We'd catch big old pike, 3-4 foot long in that thing.
Right.
And the bartender had there let us use, and that's the Jeep we stole that we left up there with them but we went hunting up in the mountains, the trails there. We found out those. I mean, you wouldn't believe just
this is you
nature
here?
itself.
Is that you there? On the left?
Yeah.
Okay. I begin to see what you look like, because you'd be in the middle.
Round face,
Yeah, you'd be in the middle of that picture, right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But this is a big log house that we used for a USO up there.
Right.
And there was a garden back behind it.
Yeah.
And since I always watched them, I saw them planting potato slips one day.
Right.
And we were gone 6 weeks. We came back, they were harvesting Irish potatoes, and those things were that big around. And I was talking to the lady about it. She helped us at USO about baking them. She said, they're so full of water, they grow so fast, we can't bake our potatoes.
Right.
We have to fry them real carefully, or just make mashed potatoes out of it.
I see.
But they grew in 6 weeks' time from being put in the ground. That's how fast stuff grows up there.
Wow. It's amazing.
And of course, I enjoyed. And I think this is probably VE day. I mean,
VJ
no,
Day?
not VE, but I think we were at Sitka when they found out that we'd bombed Japan.
Right.
If that was coming to close, I think it's about that time. Here's that little church.
Yeah.
And we'd even get the girls. Would come on because we were all they had. They were all we had. We enjoyed them. But down the engine room, the reason I really can't hear, you couldn't hear each other talk.
Uh-huh.
The only place, this is all the controls, and they had the radio, not radio, but bells down to us
Right.
to tell us what to do. And there's a little box right here. There's two of us there on duty. We put our heads together in that box so we could hear each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I don't have any hearing.
I see.
From the head, we didn't know to wear anything
Yeah.
protection in those days.
Well, that's some good books right there.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I want to borrow these 2 books. I'll give them back to you on Thursday.
Okay.
And no, this is good. And then scan this also.
All right.
I'll scan this also. We're going to take this on the Thursday at 2:30.
Okay. Which station now?
Okay, we're at KAMU, which is on campus. Are you familiar with? Are you still kind of familiar with the campus?
Not today.
Not today.
I know
This
about
is pretty. The KMU's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
It really has. I tell you what, it'd be best. Are you gonna